All right, guys, so today I have with me David Tangipa. He is running for State Assembly District 8. We're going to talk about the state of California, kind of where things are going, why you're running, change that you want to see, and really what you're going to do for us in the future, because I'm excited. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, and you're really young.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and thank you for bringing me on today. I've heard that a lot from a lot of individuals, basically more of, I just think I have a lot of lived experience, even though, and it's always interesting to see people who are like, oh, you're younger. There were individuals who signed the Declaration of Independence that were younger than me at the age that I am right now.
Wow.
So we have founding...
Was Jefferson, who was it?
Jefferson was 33 years old when he signed. He started working on, the American Revolution and all of that in his 20s, in his later 20s. I'm forgetting his name, but I believe the youngest was 26 years old. So it was a year where I'm at today.
Yeah.
But he signed the Declaration of Independence, and Benjamin Franklin was the oldest at 70 years old. Most people don't know that. So, but that's where a lot of people actually see, like, my campaign and what I've built is actually, I have a big understanding. I can I really do believe I understand the common Californian and where we're at today, but also in a new light in the area, or in the era of where we're at in California and we're at in our world today. That's where a lot of people have really come around, and they really want, and there's a hunger for the next generation, our generation, or new leadership to step up and do something about it. Because the way California is going, that's the biggest area. A lot of people just see it's truly not ran right. It's not ran right at a huge level.
It's becoming unlivable for most of us.
Same thing. That's where I'm really motivated to run. I've lived in the Central Valley my entire life, and but I understand the foothills really well, which Assembly District 8 really includes and covers North Fresno, Clovis, goes into the Sierras, but it also borders Las Vegas. And
oh, wow, I didn't know it went that far, which that area got hit pretty hard, because it seems like someone kind of dropped the ball on that, and a lot of homes were destroyed the last couple of years.
Well, especially like during the Creek Fire, and there's quite a bit of difference with that. But it's just that understanding of being somebody from the valley, but I also understand the foothills. I have that deep understanding of just, I can understand people at a different level, which is where I think a lot of people who, they may not be conservative, or they may, be liberal, or one of these, I can connect with both of them just from an understanding standpoint. Mm-hmm. We have different solutions to where we see it, but if we're really focused on being California mindset, and let's make life better for Californians.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
We all live here, and we can understand, but policy, and that's where I'm love being into policy. That's where, if you're not involved, but yet we always have an opinion on California, we need to get involved, and we need to write policy. We need to dictate policy, because if we don't, and we keep staying on the fringes on both sides, that's where we get the individuals who we don't agree with at all that are getting involved. And so I want to get involved because I want to give back to my community. Look, I'm getting out of the real estate portion of it, where I made a lot more money than I would go into politics. I am giving that up because it means the world to me to really get involved. And I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for the everyday Californian that lives here, and for the person who just wants California to be golden again, that to be the California dream. Because I think everybody right now sees that the American dream is still alive, but we're living the California nightmare. It's unaffordable. We can't get fire insurance. Financial planning's hard when cost of living is the highest in the entire nation. It's all of these things that it really takes somebody in the next generation to step up and do something about it, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. No, exactly. And when you say that you understand, like, people say, oh, well, he's from my neighborhood, or oh, we're the same demographic, we're the same age. What's special about you, and especially being young, a lot of older politicians don't seem to be in the mix. They don't seem to know what everyone's thinking. A lot of politicians have never even ran a business. So how are you going to make laws that affect us, and then it hurts people? Coming from your background, where you grew up, I think you have the best bird's eye view, because you talk to a lot of business owners, you run a business, you're traveling all up and down California, right here in the valley, you see what's going on. You see just the tax laws, what Newsom's doing. And so I think that's exciting, because you don't see a lot of young politicians. And if you do, they seem like they're just kind of trying to get their reels and their hype and their crazy one-liners to make this side or this side go, yeah. And it's like, yeah, but we're not fixing the problem.
And that's really what this is built off of, is actually just getting people to understand politics doesn't have to be, who's punching who in the face every single time just to win those 1 points. Are you winning a point here and you're winning a point here? But what are you doing to be effective for the everyday Californian? Because I tell people this, most people hate politics. They don't want to talk about it. It shouldn't be brought up. But right now with social media and everything, politics is in everything. Mm-hmm. If you looked if you looked at the world before, I would say just before 2008. 2008 was really the big rise of social media. Before that, politics had to be brought up, whether somebody was watching the news or something like that, or different things. But now we're injecting politics into everything. We're saying, but the only thing that people really remember, and this is something that I understand and know from the campaigns that I've worked on, for some reason, everybody remembers the negative things, and that's all they know. They always know the bad things because, if you saved a baby one day, but if you burn down a bridge the other day, you're always going to be the guy who's you're a burner of bridges. You're not the baby saver.
We forget all the good stuff Arnold did. We only remember those two bad things. It's like,
and that's exactly. Everybody remembers with Arnold.
It leads. It's like,
and that is the thing it's created a culture, especially in politics, where it is based off of that. Can I punch you in the face or not? And if I don't, am I winning those one-liners? Yeah. And I want to get away from that. But I do understand the need to get a message out. And that's the messaging portion of where California is at today and why the things that I want to work on. And just getting people to understand that California is a different place. I mean, we have the most abundant resources. I mean, we literally feed the world. If you just looked at Fresno, Tulare, and Kern County, I mean, that ag-producing region produces more agricultural exports and imports than the entire country of Ukraine, and Ukraine was considered the breadbasket of Europe. But then I also look at the Mediterranean coast that we have, the individuals who are working on the business sector, whether it's real estate or tech or different opportunities, and I just look at the state of California today, and this is my number one thing. I talk about it all the time, is that California is the 5th largest economy in the world, and what do we have to show for it? I mean, and that's the part where I'm running for the accountability to just tell people is that if we're the 5th largest in the world, 5th largest economy, I mean, that means that we're bigger than Japan, we're bigger than Australia, we're bigger than all of these other areas. And it's the fact that we don't have the bullet train that we would like. Mm-hmm. We don't have, where proper forest management, just where our forests aren't burning down every single time. We don't have the most affordable public utilities. We don't have the nicest roads. We don't have the cleanest area. We don't have the housing density that we can fulfill to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to buy a house. How do we not have that as the 5th largest economy in the world? Mm-hmm. That's something that we as Californians need to look into. That is an issue with leadership in this state. That is an issue with accountability in this state. That is an issue with sanity. And that is why I just want this campaign is just built off of doing that. Where I want to be different is specifically focusing on those things. I have specific bills that I know and I like to talk about. Whether when it comes to reducing our public utilities, we could do that with very, very simple changes. And yet it just needs to be talked about in a manner in which Republicans, Democrats, Independents can all just hear it. Yeah. And you can't just think like, oh, that guy's conservative. I don't like him because he's a conservative. Or
I'm not going to pass this because he's conservative. It's like, this is going to help everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And some people really live and die on that hill for some reason, but the middle doesn't. So the 15% of liberals that identify like that, they'll never side with a conservative. The 15% of conservatives that think like that will never side with a liberal individual. But it's really the middle, that's the middle 70% right there that can say, yeah, that makes sense. I'll side with that guy this time. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll side with that person this time. And then the independents that will really change the direction of California. And and I am a conservative individual. I'm a conservative individual mainly because the state of California has been dominated by one-party rule for over 40 years.
Yeah.
So you can't blame the side that I'm on right now. I can tell you that, because all of the rules and all of the laws that have come out of California for 40 years have been dominated by one-party rule, and you can't blame me.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's one thing. It's so funny you bring that up. I was just bringing that up to a friend of mine the other day. He was going off on Republicans, and then our other friend was going off on Democrats. We're all hanging out. I'm just sitting there laughing, and I'm going, you know, you can blame the president for this, this, and this. People blame Trump. People blame Biden. And I go, but they're only there for 4 years. What has California been doing for the last 40 years? Who's been running this? Who's been passing these laws? The president, they're only 4-year terms. Like when you look at politics, I'm like, you have to be kind of a historian, and you can't just blame who's in office right now. Oh, Kamala, oh, Biden, oh, Trump. What have we been doing locally? We have not been doing our job. We have not been staying on these local politicians who are passing this, and we don't even know about it because it kind of just slides right under the radar. And most people, while they're on Instagram and TikTok, and like you said, politics is not that exciting, or people, you know, we grow up, don't talk about politics and religion, so we don't. And when you don't, things get passed.
Exactly.
And then a couple years later, you get older, you're out of high school, and you're like, what are all these taxes that come out of my check? I don't even know what these are. And it seems like more and more get added every year. But that's why I think younger politicians getting involved like you is actually exciting to me, because, you know, we can do updates once a month. This is what's getting passed. Now that you know, it is your duty to call, say, I don't agree with this, write a letter, sign this, go online, put your vote in. I mean, it's really, in this generation, things are really getting away from us. We are concentrating on the wrong things. A lot of people moved away from California, or they're saying, oh, I'm moving out of here. And I go, why don't you just stay and fight? Or not even fight, but just, why don't you just stay and get involved?
Yep.
Like you said, California is beautiful. We have mountains, we have the coast. Whether you're in tech, whether you want to be in ag and move to the valley, we're a mix of everything, you know. And even just like you were saying, just a little thing like produce. Our produce gets sent to New York. Like, they don't even grow. When you realize how much stuff we do here, you're like, why don't we just stay here and fix it? And that's why I love seeing younger people getting involved like you, because now when I'm on TikTok, I can go, let me go to David's page and see what's coming down the pike this month. I might want to vote on this, or I might not want to vote on this. But now I know, and I'm doing my duty.
See, that's the biggest thing, is that most people don't even know what an assembly individual, you know, what they do.
Next question,
which
is it?
which is the easiest way to describe it is the House of Representatives for California, the state. So we, in the federal level, we have congressmen. At the state level, we have assemblymen. You know, that's what I'm running for, is to be an assemblyman.
How many are there in California?
80. There are 80 assembly individuals, men and women.
Gotcha.
And then there are 40 state local senators. And so that's what most people forget, is that there are federal senators. We have 2 per state. And then our individual state, our house is created with 40 state senators and 80 House of the Assembly. Makes it easier that way, just to describe it. So it's built in the same.
So it comes down to you guys vote on. So there's 80 of you, and then so when something new comes up, you guys all put in your vote, and then that goes to.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's just like looking at the president of our state is the governor.
Gotcha.
The Congress individuals of our state is the assembly. Then we have state senators, which, you know, they're senators, and senators are the same.
Yeah.
Even though those federal senators, 2 per state, ours is 40. There's 1 per million population, is the way that they said it. And it's based off of the population of, I mean, that's where redistricting and all of that kind of comes into play. So that's the easiest way to describe it. And yes, we pass and make laws. And so I can create a law and present it to the House floor, and then kind of go from there and try to build it in a manner in which let's bring California back to common sense.
Yeah.
Let's focus on some things that just make sense. I know a lot of people are looking at, especially when it comes to the tax laws and different things, because California right now is simply just unaffordable. It's unaffordable, and that unaffordability doesn't target your party registration, whether you're Democrat or Republican or independent, non-party preference. That affordability right now, when it comes to groceries, your public utilities, your taxes on your home, the home value and the home cost, all of that, none of it targets your party registration. And we just need people to see and just kind of wake up a little bit and say, hey, why are housing costs so high right now? Most people don't understand is that our housing is actually looked at from a scarcity basis.
Yeah, how did we even get here? You know what I mean? Like
the average home price is right around $770,000.
Good God.
And that, as a real estate individual and working in that industry, that's a plus $4,000 mortgage right now with these current interest rates. What average Californian in between the ages of 20 and 40 can really afford that? I'll tell you, even 40 and beyond, the average Californian cannot afford that. How did we get to this point? And a lot of it comes from some of these crazy policies that really put a damper on building homes. So one of the solutions to that I like to talk about is actually, if we have proper forest management, our Sierras, right now most people don't even know that there are 24 million dead trees in Fresno County alone. There are around 28 million dead trees in Tulare County. Those are the top two counties in the entire state of California with tree mortality. That means that there's over 50 million trees right now just sitting in our forests, decaying, rotting, and all of this. One of the proposed solutions that I have is, if we can identify that a tree has died within 3 years of it dying, that tree can be used as building material. We can only have affordable housing if we have affordable material. So if we're able to reclaim some of those trees, make sure that we're giving space and we're protecting the old growth trees so that they can have abundant sunlight, abundant water resources, removing these dead trees that just become ladder fuels, and then
because the old dead trees are blocking the sun so that newer gotcha. That makes sense.
Which a lot of people just, and our forests right now are unnatural because of fire mitigation and prevention from a long time, because we have not played a heavy factor in our forests. So if we can remove some of these trees and then allocate them to focus on affordable housing, where we can give businesses credits.
All these trees right in our backyard.
That's exactly right. If we can give businesses and say,
who's holding this up?
There's a lot of people holding it up. I'll tell you this. They just do not want us in our forest. And so there was actually a project that was done by Cal Berkeley called the Blodgett Forest Project that identified and looked at our density within the Sierras. When they saw is that there are some areas that have 800 trees per acre. They looked at it that average trees that are healthy with abundant sunlight, abundant water resource in this, somewhere falls between 20 and 200. It really just depends as they analyze. We have 800 trees per acre in some of these areas. That's like planting 1,000 tomatoes in a 1-by-1 square foot box. Your tomatoes are going to be small because they have to share the water resources. Your tomatoes are probably not going to grow because they'll never get enough sunlight. That is what our forest looks like today. We can reduce the crazy wildfires that are happening, and we can build affordable housing at the same time if we capture affordable material and then use it and allocate it in the right area. This is an out of the box style thinking, but it's something that I want to help and work to implement. 97% of our forests are worked with the U.S. Forest Service. Currently, right now, there are negotiations that have happened, and there are other states that create and I say the case study. Let's just take what the other states are doing and implement it here. I don't need to create the wheel. I don't need to create the idea, but I can find the ideas that work and then just implant that here. But then it's a messaging portion that we have to talk to individuals who don't always agree that human beings should be in the forest. We're here today. You have to factor the human factor today. You have to factor that there are people that have lived there for generations, that we need to help them, and we can also do it in an environmentally friendly way, in a way that can help the individuals here that want to afford or buy a house.
And like you said, you're getting really innovative with this. I understand that the forest burned down, and then you hear, well, it's because we did this, or because Newsom didn't do this, or Trump said. It's like, let's just get to the problem. We can fight all day long, but with innovative ideas like that would actually, if I heard that on a TikTok reel and I'm looking to buy a home, and I hear that, I'm going to go, why aren't we listening to this guy? Now you have this platform, but you're younger, you think different than some of these other people that have, people that have been around, and basically that have been around a long time, and they're not doing much in California. I'm not going to say any names, but that right there, like you said, I mean, and how much does it cost in California to import wood here? Because as soon as you cross that line, and those businesses know that, so they charge you more. It's like, why is everything in California so expensive? Even just moving gas over those lines. Like as soon as you get out of California and you cross the border, why does gas drop $3?
Which is like a huge thing. It's like I talk about, we have all of the resources right here in California to make California the most affordable, the most abundant, and the most responsible state. Mm-hmm. And I say responsibility because even though I don't always agree with the individuals on the climate change aspect, to the point where they're looking at climate change as the end of the world, even though we're at the end of the Pleistocene Ice Age.
Well, and they've been saying that for like 30 years too.
30 years ago, we were supposed to
in the 70s, it was supposed to end. In the 90s, it was going to end.
In the 60s, they actually were worried about global cooling. So that's the funny part.
Oh my God.
People don't even realize that. Like in 1968, scientists put out this study that the world was cooling, and what that meant was world starvation because of the lack of. We're
not going to get sunlight. We're not going to grow anything. It's just scare. But we're going to tax you more to make sure it doesn't happen, and then nothing happens. But those taxes never come back down.
But that's where I bring it back to where we could do it in a responsible manner. It's just like Theodore Roosevelt was the one who created the Sierra National Forest and the Sequoia National Forest, and he was a conservative, but he was a conservative because that's exactly right. Yeah. And so that's where he looked at it, is that the first environmentalists actually were the conservatives, but now it's been weaponized in an ideology into where we're just limiting, where I look at, like you just talked about it, we're trucking in all of our material from Oregon, Montana, Arizona. If we did a carbon emission studies on that, we would see that pulling in trees from a different area into California is a higher carbon emitted into the atmosphere.
It takes more diesel trucks to move it when we can just pull it from right here.
We can take it again right there, where we can harvest our material here locally, build housing locally. We'll be able to reduce greenhouse
and
gases.
More jobs, everything.
Reduce greenhouse gases, more jobs, and all this. And to where California looks at it for some reason at some point is just because we're not doing it here in this state, but yet we're buying it from another state and trucking it in, that policy doesn't even make sense. That's just done from a feel-good sense. Yeah. From a feel-good is, I just feel good that it's not happening in my backyard, but it's okay to happen in Oregon's backyard and Montana's backyard and that one, and it's okay for them to truck it here to build materials. That is a point where we're working on scarcity, and it doesn't make sense. Yeah. And if we can get people to realize that it is environmentally beneficial to harvest our own dead trees, so that way we're protecting old growth trees to make sure that those trees are still provided and very healthy, but then we're also using it in a manner in which we can build affordable housing, because you can't build affordable housing without affordable material. Yeah. That is answering California issues for Californians by Californians, and we need to make sure that we're doing that, and we're thinking outside of the box and just taking people off of that ridiculous mindset that they just feel good that it's not happening in their backyard. Yeah.
And like you said, like we said earlier, forget left or right. We all live here. We have to come to an agreement. Why does this cost so much? Why does this happen? Why are my houses? Why aren't we using the wood here? I never even thought of that. I didn't even know we had. I mean, I know we have a lot of trees. You drive up to the Sequoia, Shaver.
100 million in dead trees.
I've never thought, why don't we use these trees to build our houses, create the jobs? It's less diesel, if you're worried about, the environment and everything. It just makes so much sense, but you just don't hear anyone talking about it because, like you were saying, there's so many battles going on though too. So if you just start at one thing at a time, get it out there, if you continue to do that for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years, we might start to see things come down. We might start to see jobs go up, more local business owners grow, and then California just gets better. But it seems like, this is my conspiracy, it's kind of like just not to get off on another tangent, when you look at homelessness, we spend $400 million a year in California to fix homelessness.
We spend $5 billion a year.
Holy shit, okay, I must have been reading something old then.
$5 billion a year is how much is allocated to homelessness.
Oh my God, okay, yeah, so
And
Wow.
most people don't know that 56% of that is actually allocated towards salaries.
I was just going to say that. Okay, so we spend $5 billion a year to fix homelessness. It never gets fixed. And it seems like in California, there's this little sweet spot where if you never fix it, and then you need someone there in that position to constantly be trying to fix it. Why are my taxes going to that? And I've always had this joke with my friends. At the end of the year, can I get a receipt that shows me where my taxes went? You know the IRS doesn't miss a beat, but you can't show me where my taxes went. Did I build a park? Did I build a road? Why are we spending $5 billion? And there's a poop app in San Francisco so that you don't step in poop and your kid doesn't get some crazy disease and touch their mouth. But it just seems so obvious. But at the same time, it's not even really conspiracy. If there's always a problem, there has to be someone there to fill that position. Vote those people out. Mm-hmm. We need to start coming down on these people. What exactly do you do here? You know what I mean? Like, not saying that like to start a riot or to go out there and picket outside of, LA counties, like downtown, but like we need to start asking, what do you do here? And getting to people like David and say, David, how do we fix this? There's this problem. How do we get thousands of people to sign this?
Well, and that's the biggest thing is that if we have that mindset, let's put California, ideology. Let's reinvigorate the California dream to where we're not like, especially when it comes to the homeless issue. Money is not the solution there. I mean, money's not. We actually have to raise the standard and the quality of living in which we prefer. Yeah. We cannot allow individuals. So right now, this is where I've seen on the other side, they hide a lot of their policies and ideology under the guise of compassion. They just simply say, I am your friend, I am here for you, so therefore, like, you are part of us, you're one of us. So, but but the solutions aren't working, and that's where people need to get back to that policy. Hey,
they haven't been working for a long time.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing is that if we can get back to the policy standpoint of like, did this work, did this not work? Let's look at what these other states did. Let's look at what other countries did to implement, especially when it comes to homeling. We have now 1/3, or I think it's pretty close to right now, it's somewhere in between 1/3 and half of all of the countries' homeless population right here in California. And then I remember seeing this
Well, it's sunny all year long. I mean, it's easy to be homeless here.
It's easy to live here. And that was a big thing when I was, my undergrad's in political science, and we actually did studies on where population densities usually align and all this. And as you get closer to the border, or closer to the equator, you'll see populations rise because how much easier it is for people to live. Yeah. The humid climate allows individuals to plant a little bit more, and which is why you see low population density in places like Alaska. A lot more harder conditions, a lot more other things that you'll see, like Fargo, North Dakota. Fargo, North Dakota is going to be great for people from Fargo, North Dakota. Yeah. You put a bunch of people from LA there, you'll never have a city like that because it's negative 20 for 1/3 of the year. Yeah. And that's where you won't get individuals that kind of move like that, to where if you get into a place like California, it is easy to live here, where you'll never see the homeless population in Fargo because negative 20, individuals will die.
You can't survive there.
You literally cannot survive outside in the streets. But here, I mean, we shift in between 30 degrees and 110 degrees. Yeah. And on the coast. You just
get on the bus and go somewhere else and I'm going to pack my stuff up and get out of here.
They can hop on the bus, go to the coast and sleep on the ground for a little bit. And we need to raise the standard again, especially when it comes to homeless. But this is where I talk about from the affordable housing portion of it. My solution to affordable housing and building all of this is to just build more housing. If we increase the supply, we'll decrease the demand, we'll lower the price per house. Mm-hmm. It's just the easiest way to do it, and then incentivize businesses to make sure that their margins are met by, hey, if you use our locally sourced wood right here from Auberry, let's get the Auberry mill site open. Let's get North Fork open again. Let's get Oakhurst. Let's get Mariposa. Let's get all of these areas really back into properly managing their forest, doing it in a way that they're hiring local, incentivizing businesses with tax incentives to buy local, to then build affordable, to then lower the home price. That is a solution. Yeah. That is something that we need to look at, to where individuals will see, okay, I can buy my own house, it's at an affordable price, $760,000 is a $4,000 mortgage, but now I can buy a $1,500 mortgage, or I can buy a $2,000 mortgage is now for us livable. Even the older generation doesn't even think that's remotely close. But doing those things right, now we're giving opportunity to maybe homeless individuals who want proper services. They show that they're clean, because again, we have to raise the standards as well. They show that they're clean. They take care of themselves in a manner in which maybe they need mental services, and we're able to provide that from a smart sense and a science-based sense, instead of just saying, hey, you're homeless here, here's $500 a month, here's your free phone because you need a free phone, and also from all the medical services and stuff like that, just walk in and we'll provide you, and everything else will. There is no standard right now for California. We need to return to a standard base. We need to return to building locally, and that's where we'll start getting and solving the solution, instead of just paying people to be there. Because this is what I say. There's a lot of homeless individuals who don't want to solve the issue, because if they solve the issue, they lose their job.
Yeah, that salary goes out the window as soon as it's solved. And I was going to say, you made me think of something. So when you create this great environment, get just with the wood, just with the trees. Let's just start with the trees. All those jobs, bringing back certain things, building certain things. Certain businesses are going to go, you know what, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to buy this piece of property. We're going to employ hundreds of people. The homelessness problem will start to dwindle.
Exactly.
And then the drug problem, and then the crime, and the rock. You know what I mean? Like, one thing, like just fixing the wood, just fixing the tree situation, after a couple years, it might start to go like this.
Exactly.
Homelessness, robberies, break-ins, meth, all this stuff. These people, instead of that $5 billion a year going towards I don't know how they're fixing it. Fixing the homelessness problem? I don't even, what do they do? You know what I mean? Instead of trying to do that.
They identify a homeless person and they say, oh, here's your card and here's your living, and you can go get a shower here and do this. And I say this as somebody who, in my own life, I grew up in low-income housing. My mother's an immigrant, father's 100% disabled veteran, and I got out the hood way, and I've slept on individuals' couches and stuff, and I was Polynesian homeless. So I got to stay with my friends and family.
And when you're young, it's kind of, I went through some stuff like that. When you're young, it's kind of fun. Like, I lived out of a backpack for a while. I'm like, I'm going to come stay at your place.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so, but it's understanding that if you give somebody a well-paying job, but not only that, there's a hunger right now in California of just wanting and longing, especially in our demographic. They want something that is important. So if we're able to do something important, like if you get a job at the Auberry Mill site, and you can, if you're a liberal, say, look, I'm helping fight climate change by removing greenhouse and decaying trees,
there
you're doing it that way. Or if you're a conservative and you're saying, I'm helping start this business by building homes that are locally sourced right here.
And we're conserving the forest, and everybody wins.
and we're conserving the forest, and everybody wins. Good.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do that. Let's be Californians together. Left, right, conserving it by removing greenhouse gases and all of that, and by building again.
We can argue about little stuff later, but let's fix our community. And then from us agreeing, you're saving the planet, I'm conserving the forest, and creating jobs. And now, guess what? This whole side of the hill where meth was a problem, it's not after a couple of years because the jobs are back. People
There's
can
hope
send
in
their
the
kids
community
to school.
again.
People can, they can grow.
We don't get dilapidated.
And get the help they need because they have a job and they have stability.
Exactly.
It just kind of starts to trickle and fix everything.
Well, it's just like we don't have the dilapidated communities, which the dilapidated communities lead to people feeling disincentivized to taking care of things, which leads to lower quality of living. We're raising the standard again by just giving people that passion in solving that issue, that is solving an issue for all Californians. And it's providing that hope again in a logical, policy-based standard that doesn't discriminate on anybody's political party.
Yeah. And before I forget, earlier you made me think of something. So we solve all these problems just by reallocating our resources with just the trees in our backyard. So from there, I start to think, what else could we do after just a couple of years? So that $5 billion that's going to homelessness, that money can be used for other things now. Imagine the grants or the new business owners or anything, better school systems, structure, get laptops in the hood, get just all this stuff. I'm like, what could we do with $5 billion? Or just lower our taxes, which makes people want to go out and spend more money, which makes it's like how just with the trees, you know what I mean? So I can't even imagine what other things you're coming up with that are like, imagine what this would do. So the $5 billion, I say take $1 billion of that, and the people that are still homeless in a couple years, or it hasn't really got to them yet, throw that into mental health.
Exactly.
Get psychologists in there. Let's build some affordable apartments or whatever it is to get these people off the street and get them cleaned up and then get them into society. It's like the butterfly effect to me. Just starting with the trees. So imagine if we fixed the lakes and the dams, or we had more water reservoirs, and things weren't drying up out in Hanford. I'm like, oh my God, David, what else can we do? Like, now you got me excited. Like this is crazy.
But that's exactly, I'm so glad that you brought up the dams. There's something that is another, it's truly not that innovative because it's actually been tried. So Assemblyman Jim Patterson, he's the individual that I'm looking to replace, and he's endorsed me. In 2012, he wrote a bill, I'm forgetting the number, but it was an adjustment to SB 1078 from 2002. That adjustment would have made, because that SB 1078 created the energies portfolio in California, which added environmental energies like wind and solar, as they wanted the number one sources for energy to be wind and solar. And there's like one other one, I believe, but I'm forgetting it right now.
And we get a lot of sunlight here, man.
But what they excluded was large-scale hydroelectrical facilities. So right now in Fresno County, our dam, the Helms Project, so the dam that has, creates Shaver and all of the lakes up there, Huntington, a lot of these other areas, and the Shaver Dam.
It all just runs down the mountain and just keeps.
So, but this is what that power generation plant at Big Creek and at Helms is not included as green or renewable energy because it wasn't included. What would be a solution to that is that we simply rewrite the legislation, do what Jim Patterson tried to do in 2012, and include large-scale hydroelectrical. What that will do is that it will lower our public utility costs by simply saying that large-scale hydroelectrical facilities that produce over 30 megawatts are included in our green renewables portfolio.
How's that not renewable?
How is it not, is the question that I always ask. The fact that it isn't is simply because we're operating off of scarcity. It doesn't make sense that large-scale hydro is not included, and we can add to our energy grid right now without adding a single carbon emission by simply writing one sentence: include large-scale hydroelectrical in our grid, and we will make sure that we don't have rolling blackouts in California, because it should piss off every single Californian that we have rolling blackouts at the fifth largest state, or the fifth largest economy in the world. It should make every single Californian mad, because we have the solution right now without building a single facility, without adding a carbon emission, by simply allowing large-scale hydroelectrical facilities included in our green energies renewable portfolios. That's it.
Yeah.
We would solve that right now by just writing a simple sentence. And why is that not passed today? Baffles me. And that's a huge one where I say, if we lower the public utility costs, we're lowering the burden on those at the bottom of the totem pole, to where they don't have to spend 1/3 of their income on just bills and utilities. They can afford to keep the energy on because we're adding large-scale hydro. They can afford for their child to watch TV more while they're maybe working as a single mother or a single father. They can afford to do these other things where they don't have to operate off of scarcity. Can I afford $20 more on my public utilities bill?
Yeah.
Can I afford?
Would that offset like PG&E costs too?
It would significantly, because Don
After the
Pedro.
fires, it seemed like my PG&E bill went up a little bit.
Of course.
The watt started adjusting, and then
that's
we went from 18 to 36.
Now we're at
Well,
22.
Like,
so
yeah, they lost a lot, so they got to make up for it.
exactly. And so if
So
we
that could offset.
again, another one, we increase the supply by simply getting out of the way, by adding hydroelectrical facilities to our energies portfolio. That's it. A sentence. That's all we need to do. We don't need to build a single thing.
And it's not going to cost $5 billion either, right?
All it'll cost is a couple $1 million to rewrite the legislation in paper. On paper. That's just the cost of paying somebody on paper to do it. That's all it'll do, and we will be able to have a solution for our utilities right away.
And that's a whole other rabbit hole right there, because now Now it makes me think, why isn't this on there? Because these little details are what the left and the right can both agree on. Like, there's nothing to argue here.
There's no disincentive not to do it, other than the only argument that I've ever heard is, oh, well, it will encourage people to build more dams because some people are against dams. They're against dams because it changes the natural environment of the river flow. It's the environmentalists that believe that human life shouldn't be a factor in the environment, even though we are here today. And so it's those individuals that you just can't talk to them. I mean, they would rather operate where human beings, we need less humans.
Yeah, but they don't mind building another Starbucks there.
Less humans to me is the same thing as just saying genocide in a nice way. So I don't operate in that manner.
It'd be kind of like saying don't build any more wings onto the nursing units for the hospital. That doesn't make any sense.
Like, hey, we can't have farms because farming is evil. Well, I tell them, I was like, farming feeds people, and we all believe that human hunger is an issue. I mean, we've seen the commercials growing up in the 90s, in the arms of an angel, and all of those that give 5 cents today and you'll be able to feed this individual. We know that. These individuals would rather reduce farming because they operate off of that. The world needs to go back to some order of non-human intervention. Doesn't make sense. That's not the way human beings need to operate anymore. It's just like in that issue, especially including the adjustment to SB 1078 from 2002. That is a Republican Democrat bipartisan thing that Jim Patterson, very strong conservative, tried to pass in 2012. Adam Gray, a Democrat from Merced, tried to pass in 2018. And Ana Caballero tried to do a one-off to include Don Pedro as part of that. So that's where it shows it's not a Republican, it's not a Democratic issue. It's a California thing. It's a California, we could reduce public utilities right now if we just include large-scale hydro in our energies portfolio, reducing the burden on those on the bottom, reducing the burden on business owners, reducing the burden on every single person in California without adding a single carbon emission. That's how we can do it. That's an innovative idea that we need that. But that's the part, is we need the messaging to get out there so that people can hear, like, wow, okay, that's why my utilities are high.
Well, and that's why I think that kind of stuff needs attention. That kind of stuff should be on TikTok and Reels and YouTube rather than just some boring CNBC, CNN, C-SPAN, watching the Senate talk to people in court, and it's just a boring room. And I'm sure it's really important, but it doesn't really grab my attention. I don't really understand what's going on.
It is, exactly. Like, nobody's going to watch CNBC and want to hear some issue on energies in California. Nobody wants to see on CNN. Everybody there wants to see who's punching.
Because, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We're all going to feel it in our pockets. It doesn't matter if your wallet is red or if it's blue. We're all going to feel it because we all live here.
We can work on it together, and just from a manner of just, from respect. Hey, who does this hurt? Who does it help? It doesn't hurt anybody. I honestly don't see how physical buildings that are here today, just a small adjustment, hurts nobody. It helps every single person, whether you're a business owner or whether you're on the streets using the energy, or whether you're just somebody who wants to be left alone with your family and you want to just go and hang out and you don't want to deal with politics. It even helps that person out as well, just by lessening the burden that everybody here in California is taking on right now when it comes to taxes, public utilities, cost of living, insurance, all of these things together. It's like, let's look at a comprehensive solution. Small things. If we do the small things right, the large things will take care of themselves. We'll just get back to a California first policy and saying we can make California better for everybody.
And at the end of the day, individually, that's going to hold you back, or it's going to set you forward. Just having those jobs, that's going to put so many people forward.
Where I see all of those other policies gives people more money in their pockets so that they can find people just like yourself and say, hey, I want to make sure that I'm prepared in 60 years when I want to retire. Or, hey, my grandparents, they never really talked to a financial advisor, or they never really talked to a financial planner or somebody who can help them with their assets, or that, just managing their assets in a proper function. It reduces the burden so that they can explore some of these options that they never thought would have been an option before.
Let's jump into Prop 13, because as a financial planner and a life insurance broker, I'm working with a lot of families to help them preserve generational wealth. Because a lot of people don't understand how this works and how important it is to get these things implemented early in life.
Which is where Prop 13, I'll say this, so that was passed in 1978. Ronald Reagan was still the governor, and it was a fairly conservative group of individuals. But that is the only reason why I think right now that California is somewhat affordable. And we have to protect Prop 13. Prop 13 is when somebody purchases a house, the value in which they purchase their house will be what the tax value will be 1% of that purchase value.
Yeah.
So buy a $400,000 house, your tax basis is going to be somewhere, depending on the counties, depending on your local city jurisdictions, they're going to have other additional taxes on there, but your state will be from a basis of 1%. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be around $4,000, split up your payment in April and December and June and December, however they operate in that regards. So that's what Prop 13 is. 1% of the value of your purchase value for your property. And they will reassess the property, and they're limited to raising or lowering by 2%. So it's a margin of 2%. Okay. And so what that has done is California has some of the most affordable, which we never hear anymore, property taxes in the entire state. Like Texas is around 7% per state. Imagine a 7% tax rate on a $400,000 house.
So those are kind of some of our advantages and some of the disadvantages, but yeah, you don't want those going up. Yeah, we got to protect that at all costs.
Involved to protect it because that's the only thing that really makes California affordable, especially from an investment standpoint. Yeah. And it's where I got involved in real estate because I knew the way to break generational poverty was through home ownership. It's the easiest way to do it in California. Just buy a home, stay there for 30 years, pay off the mortgage, you got an asset.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. You'll pay taxes, but your taxes are only 1% of the purchase value. And so that's where the adjustment on Prop 19, what that did was it allows an individual who has been in their home for a long time, if they're over the age of 55 and they bought the house, say, in my own scenario, they bought the house in the 1960s. That property was probably worth around maybe $50,000. That would be a high end in the 1960s, maybe $50,000. And then now they can sell in today, 2023, for, this house was in Concord, $700,000. They bought it for $50,000 in the 1960s, lived there their entire life, and now they're selling for $700,000. Because they're on a fixed income, this individual is in their 90s, they're on a fixed monthly income from the past, they can take that original value from when they bought it in the 1960s and transfer it to a house in any county in California. That's what Prop 19 did. It allowed them to take that basis out of county. Before, it could only be within county. So if you lived in Fresno County, you could only transfer to Fresno County. You couldn't transfer it to Madera, couldn't transfer to Kings, Tulare, or anywhere else. Prop 19 opens it to all of the state of California. You can go to now any state and hold that same tax value basis.
Especially where we're at. I mean, you jump over just one county or drive up the freeway, you're talking significant savings or big drop in value, or even going just over a different state.
Exactly right. And so, but then where some people have a lot of issues with, and I understand, is if it also created an adjustment to where if your inheritance inherits that property in which you buy, it changes to where they will assess the property to its current market value if your inheritor does not move into the home as a primary resident.
Which really messes you up.
Because now you owe current market value tax.
Yeah, so the house was $100,000 when Grandpa bought it, but now the person inheriting the property with their family, they're screwed. I mean, you're talking that step up, that those taxes are going to be insane. And that's where people have to leave life insurance, because when you're doing estate planning, it's like, who can afford this? You have to leave life insurance because, I mean, that property tax can wipe some people out.
Well, and that's where there still will be a benefit, because say, you inherit or you pass on the home to your grandchild. Well, your grandchild moves into the house, and now the house doesn't get reassessed. Now that grandchild is actually paying 1960s taxes on a $500,000 home. Yeah. That's really good, and is actually something that I use with my sister. I helped her into a property prior to that. Well, actually, even with that, because she moved into her grandmother's home, and we have different grandmothers. So she moved into her grandmother's home. They're now keeping that tax basis, which is more affordable for them, but there was some assessment that they needed to do on the mortgage when they pulled out the mortgage. So they have a very high interest rate and a very high mortgage. So even though they're paying $3,000 for their mortgage, they don't have this house is worth current market value $600,000 because they're in Sacramento.
Yeah.
600,000. They at least don't have to worry about a $6,500 bill every year.
Yeah.
You know, that with all the other taxes, school taxes and different things piled on top, they have the $3,000 mortgage and a tax basis from.
And the last thing you want to do is go through probate for months fighting for that house. I mean, probate's expensive. You know, it's not like the county just pays for it for you. Because I worked with a lady years ago, and her story was she moved into her grandparents died, a house up near San Francisco, and he had added onto it over time, so it became very valuable. And she went to go move in, and after that first year, she realized that the property tax was close to $24,000. So if you don't plan ahead, or if you don't understand, I don't really fully know the full, you know, what papers were signed, what papers weren't signed, but I just know that they didn't do something right. They probably didn't have a trust. There probably wasn't any, real legal demands on what they wanted to happen. So yeah, I don't think she kept that house for very much longer.
The person should have helped her. Especially, did it actually go through probate? That's what we're trying to understand the issue.
I don't know. I was confused too on how that happened.
If they would have had a trust in place on the property, and also was it paid off?
Yeah, I believe it was paid off. I just, things just didn't transfer well for some reason. But maybe there wasn't a reassessment, or it just wasn't properly done inside of a trust. I'm not really sure.
There had to have been a reassessment or something like that, or he didn't put it in a trust. We got to get with, somebody who understands that and really speak from that standpoint, because, an individual just thinks, oh, it's my house now and there's nothing different. It's not how it works.
Not how it works.
You got to get with somebody who understands, especially from the real estate standpoint, because if her parents would have had it in a trust, allowed this individual to inherit, basically it's a living trust, and then you utilize the benefits in which you're talking about, nothing would have changed, especially if they would have said, this beneficiary or, co-trustee, however they wanted to situate them, is an owner into all of the assets of it. They would have been an owner prior to the death of her parents.
Yeah.
So that would have been the issue. He must have either refinanced or something else. Yeah. That would have changed his tax basis on a couple other cents. But
having a financial plan is not just for rich people. I mean, buying your first house, getting married, having kids, from that to the business owners that I work with that are, their net worth is over $12 million. And anything in California where your net worth, if your net worth is over $12 million, anything over that is 40% taxable, to your estate. And so that's where, getting life insurance isn't just for rich people. Having a financial plan is not just for rich people. Our financial advisor here, he's always talking to people from all different walks of life. And, and this younger generation, man, I mean, once you start building up these assets, you better go pay a couple $1,000s and get a trust set in place that has everything that you need in case something, God forbid, were to happen to you.
The biggest thing is that most people don't know is to even get, like with Prop 19, that adjustment to Prop 13, you need to fill out a form to get the benefits. Like you have to meet with somebody who understands, like, oh, if I'm transferring to a new county, I need to, here, I've identified my home, and at least seniors plus 55, they have a year to do it. It's not automatic. It doesn't just happen. Yeah. You have to apply with your county assessor's office. And people need to be aware with that and just getting involved. I mean, it's getting involved. I love politics. I love real estate. I want people to contact me if they have questions. Yeah. Financial planning, life insurance. They need to contact you if they have questions. I mean, that's the way. Find the person who knows. Yeah. I tell them, hey, look, all of you business owners, you want a business-friendly world or a business-friendly state? Hire me. Send me to Sacramento to go and fight for you. Yeah. Put me on your, I say, look, you help out with my campaign if you're donating or anything like that. Your return on investment is I'm going to go fight for common sense California policies for the business owner and for everybody else. Yeah. That's where I tell them, for you, they need to get involved with you. Find, hey, maybe ask questions and give a consultation. I mean, it's these things. People just need to get a little bit more active, especially on the political sense, on their financial sense, and if they want stability for the rest of their life.
Well, we are definitely looking for new leadership. We're looking for somebody young and fun, someone to really just get us excited and inform us, in a way that's understandable, because some of this stuff just right over the head. But this is important stuff, man. But I know you got to get going. Tell everyone real quick where they can find you, what you got coming up.
Yeah, you can
Twitter,
find
Instagram, where are you at?
Yep, just if you look up David Tangipa, the easiest way to spell it is Tang IPA, so Tang IPA. And you can find me at David J Tangipa on Instagram, on Twitter as well. If you just look up, I'm the only person with that name. That name comes from a very, very small Polynesian island called Niua.
Yeah.
One of the islands of Tonga. So it's only my family. So you'll find me. Then you can find me on my website at davidtangipa4assembly.com. Read about the policies that I have on there, some of the adjustments that I want to make, and then I'll be around. I mean, I invite anybody to ask me to come on. I can talk about these policies, and you don't have to agree with me on everything.
Yeah.
And I just want, if we're all just working together, we live here. We got to take care of our own home together. And so that's really where I'm coming from, and doing it in a new and modern way, because I think people are really hungry for new leadership to step up and do something about it.
Yeah. You guys definitely reach out to David. You can find him on YouTube, anywhere where you can get podcasts, Instagram. Make sure you go check him out. Give him a follow. A lot of big things coming up pretty soon, and we'll see you on the next one.